If your pain feels random, I'm going to say something bold. The very thing you've been taught to do to try and solve it is the exact same thing that's keeping it going. And although it may not seem like it, this is good news because it means you're not broken. Here's a test for you. Have you ever done the exact same gym session, the same walk, the same activity, the same movement even, on 2 separate days, and on one day it feels absolutely fine, but the next day your pain flares and you're left wondering what the hell is going on? If that's you, stay with me because in a few minutes I'll explain exactly what the pattern is, and it has nothing to do with the movement. But why should you listen to me? My name's Nick and I'm a sports physio and I specialize in chronic pain. I help people to understand and overcome persistent pain so they can get back to training without fear and playing the sport they love without pain. And if you've done all the right stuff, you've done the physio, the rehab, you've done all the exercises, you've rested, you've tried to be careful, and things still don't add up, this video is going to explain exactly what's going on. First, let's address a common fear and misconception, and that's pain that changes day to day is somehow in your head. It's not. It's real pain and real symptoms. It's just not playing by the same rules that you are. What it usually means is that your system is changing how sensitive it wants to be. Because here's the thing that you need to understand. Pain is not a perfect damage report. It's a protection output, like a fire alarm. And alarms don't just respond to damage, they also respond to threats and context. Think of the smoke detector in your kitchen. Imagine every single day changing the sensitivity on that detector. Some days you'd make a piece of toast and nothing would happen. Other days you'd make a piece of toast and you'd set the alarm off. It doesn't mean that on those days the toaster is now suddenly dangerous. It's just the alarm sensitivity is changing. And this can happen in our body too. And this is often where random pain comes from. It's your alarm sensitivity, your pain sensitivity changing. So let's address where most people get stuck. If you've been experiencing all this random pain and thought to yourself, I need to figure out the movement or position that triggers this pain, you've been looking for the pattern in the wrong place. The pattern isn't between the movement and pain. The pattern is between the nervous system, the sensitivity of your alarm system, and the pain. To explain it, let's make it sport specific. Your nervous system accumulates all of the different stresses that you experience every single day. Life stress, training stress, work stress. The nervous system has to process all of it. And when we combine everything, we can consider this the total load. When someone experiences a flare-up in their pain, the first thing they do is look to the movement, the exercise, the activity they did, but they don't consider all of the other stresses, all of the other load that's on their nervous system. They think, oh, I only did a really easy session, but they forget to consider all of the life, the family, the work stress, the bad night's sleep, everything else that the nervous system had to deal with. If you then compare that to the day you did where you pushed yourself really hard and it felt great, you may look at that and think it doesn't make sense. But when you realize that all of the other load and stresses was relatively minimal, it makes all the sense in the world. But random pain has the potential to completely tie people up in knots. Because when the pain feels really random, people do the most logical thing in the world, which is to try and hunt for the trigger. They spend more time trying to figure it out, more time journaling, reflecting, trying to identify exactly what's setting this pain off. But the problem is, all the time that you're doing this, you are quietly training your nervous system to be more sensitive. This is a case of hypervigilance. And I want you to really hear this. This is not your fault. You've often been conditioned into it by people like me. Doctors, physios are always looking to identify the pattern of your pain to figure out what's wrong. They ask you questions about what aggravates it, what triggers it, what makes it worse, what makes it better. They are looking for the physical pattern to identify what the cause of your pain might be. And this makes complete sense when there's an injury. But when the nervous system is involved, it makes no sense at all because the pain does not follow a typical pattern. If you've seen multiple people over and over again who have all been looking for this pattern, over time it teaches you to believe that the solution to your pain is to identify this trigger, this secret thing that's making it worse. So you start watching your body like a detective. You monitor every sensation, you think about every movement, you replay things you did yesterday. You're constantly scanning for danger, trying to catch that cause in the act. And all the time you're doing this, the nervous system is hearing one very clear message. Something is wrong and we need to stay alert. And the really cruel twist is that when the brain believes there's something wrong, the only sensible thing for it to do is increase the system's sensitivity. It dials this up to try and make sure that it identifies this threat for you, that it keeps you safe. And with the system sensitivity dialed all the way up, with us deep in protection mode, it makes it all the more likely for the pain to show up. It's a vicious cycle. More pain causes more scanning, more thinking, more perceived sense of threat. You get more sensitive and feel more pain. And if you've ever thought, the harder I try to fix this, the worse it gets, this is exactly why. Not because you're doing something wrong, but your approach is keeping the nervous system in protection mode. Now, here's what I'm not saying. I'm not telling you to just ignore this pain or to just relax. But what I am telling you is to stop treating your system like a mystery to solve. Start treating it like a protection system responding to context. And in just a second, I'll give you a simple way to do that. But first, let me give you 3 context signals that can make this type of pain feel completely random. The first are external triggers, things we've already mentioned that would be going on in your life. That could be work stress, family stress. It could be driving to the gym to do a session where you're just cut up and you go into that session with your nervous system more ramped up than it would be. The next are internal threats, things that we do to ourselves which increase how sensitive our nervous system is. This includes pressure, self-criticism, and worry. A great example here is if you've got something really important planned, something where you're desperate for your pain to not get in the way. If you start thinking and wishing and putting pressure on yourself to stay pain-free or to keep your pain at a certain level, all of this pressure and worry is going to increase how sensitive your nervous system is and make it even more likely that your pain is going to flare up. And the third is predictive patterning. The brain is a prediction machine, and if you've experienced the same thing repeat a few times, it's normal to start anticipating that the same thing is going to happen again. If you notice that every time you walk the dog, it feels good if you go in the morning, but painful at night, and you start to anticipate that every time you walk the dog in the evening, it's going to be painful, then it's more likely that it is going to be painful. The brain's going to listen to you and use that belief and thought process to predict what it's going to do next. If the pain is truly random, it could be good, bad, we don't know, and we can't control it. So don't get sucked into the trap of assuming that the pain is going to follow this predictive pattern. If you do, you're just making a rod for your own back. What we need to remember is that the brain is a learning machine. It learns bad habits and destructive patterns, just as it learns all of the good stuff. So, up until now, we've established 2 things. The first is that random pain is often your system sensitivity changing due to context. The second is that pattern hunting based on movement can often make this pain even worse. Now, it's time to give you some control. Here are 4 things that I would give someone who's experiencing nervous system pain to help them overcome this random pain pattern, to put them back in control and increase their confidence and reduce their threat levels. Number 1, label it. When the pain flares, say, "This is my nervous system trying to protect me." Acknowledge what's going on in the system. 2 is to reassure. Identify a recent time when that exact same movement that just caused pain felt absolutely fine. It affirms to you that your body can do it, that you're not damaged or you suddenly didn't get weak overnight. 3 is to cut the criticism. Notice when you're becoming self-critical and flip the script. You didn't cause this, so don't indulge that thought process and instead just take a breath and move on. And the 4th and final one is to be present. When we have pain, it's so easy to get stuck in our heads, thinking about everything that's happened or everything that's going to happen. But the truth is, we can't think our way out of this pain. And overthinking is not going to change the outcome. All it is going to do is dial up your system sensitivity. So instead, what you can do is try and bring yourself back to the present moment. Focus on the thing you're doing, things around you, things you can hear, things you can see, things you can smell, or even simpler, bring your attention to your breath. This is how you stop feeding the hypervigilance loop, and you start to build more resilience. And when you can do this day after day, you start to feel more in control. You start to feel less fear. And when the fear drops, pain drops. Not overnight and not in just a day or 2, but when the system starts to believe that it's safe. Now, if you're listening to this thinking, this is absolutely me, but you're not sure if the nervous system is the real driver behind your pain, this is what I want you to do. Write down everything that you've done for your pain without success from a mechanical perspective. How many physios have you seen? How much rehab have you done? How many exercises and drills have you found online that you've tried week after week or month after month? All of it without making any difference to your pain. Getting all of this down onto one sheet of paper is so important because it gives you confidence that you have fully explored the mechanical route. If your pain was coming from a weakness, a mobility problem, an imbalance, something on this page would have fixed it. And it gives you confidence that something else must be going on, because if none of that stuff worked, there has to be a reason. And with chronic pain, the most common reason is the nervous system. And that is exactly what we can dive into with my free chronic pain quiz. In 5 minutes, I'll ask you some very specific questions about your pain to figure out just how involved your nervous system is. And you'll get a score whether it's low, moderate, or high, and a clear next step. You can find the link to access it in the description below, and I'll see you in the next video.